man. I have a funny story about this movie. So this movie was announced late December 2022. I mean, given a couple of months prior for the release date, yada yada yada, right? But for those who don't know, on the channel, me and James and a few of our friends, one being CJ, you've seen on the channel. Shout out to you, CJ. Love you, bro. But us as a whole of Lost Legends TV has been making movies for years. Granted, we've only put 2 up on the channel, but we have numerous ones in the vault that we've never released. We have spent the last 5 or 6 years just practicing our craft to be able to put something out to say, hey, you know what? This actually turned out good. This looks good. It feels good. The sound design sounds good. And I remember it was late 2021, early 2022, where I had this idea that I presented to other members of Lost Legend TV. I was like, hey, you know what, guys? We should make a Grinch Christmas horror movie. I shit you not, we had this idea. We had the locations picked out. We had the idea. We had the plot. I had already invested in the prosthetics we would use, the costumes, the setting. It was supposed to snow this year because it never snows in our fucking state. And then this came out and I was like, fuck! It was bound to happen one way or another. And I am very late reviewing this film because, for one, I just didn't want to watch it because it just did not appeal to me. And I know that sounds so contradicting, but the way the trailer looked for me, I was like, man, this is not gonna turn out good. I would have went a whole bonkers different direction with it. So if you have seen this movie, you know what this is about. This is almost a parody of The Grinch. And for those who haven't seen this movie, you're in for a real fucking treat. And I don't mean in a good way. I'll tell you right now, I wasn't the biggest fan of the film. But the other night, like 2 nights ago, me and my old lady, I could not sleep. I was like, baby, you wanna go watch a movie? And she was like, yeah. We saw this one. I was like, hey, do you finally wanna watch this? I was like, sure, yeah, let's give it a chance. And I shit you not, halfway into it, we was like, fuck this, we're going back to bed. But I did the next morning follow it up and finish the movie. It sounds like I'm harping on this movie because I am, but it's not all bad either. So this is my review for The Mean One. I'm gonna list all the pros and all the cons, all the good and all the bad that I thought the movie brought. So the movie starts out, the opening credits, it has Cindy, a little girl, who witnesses the Grinch accidentally killing her mother because the mother thought it was an intruder when all actuality, he was there doing whatever the fuck ever. The Mean One is there stealing Christmas items and ushers Cindy back to bed. The mother comes down, hey, oh my God, there is an intruder. They have a scaffold, she beats the fuck out of him like this little mannequin Santa looking thing. And then in the wake of the scuffle, he accidentally kills the mother. I guess this sets him off to being a monster. But beforehand, Cindy had gave him a necklace that plays evidently a pivotal part at the end of the movie, which we'll get there when we get there. So Cindy is traumatized this by 20 years. The film takes place 20 years later, where her therapist recommends she goes back into the town of Newville, not Whoville, Newville, to face her trauma once and for all. They have a house there. They want to go back to the town of Newville and sell their family house, put it on the market, and get something good out of this bad situation, which I respect that 100%. She goes there with her father, which is named Lou. Lou was Cindy's father in the 2000 version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. There's a lot of parallels here. I think that is one of the things that I don't like about the film. Yeah, I get this. Certain things have to remain intact for this to be a Grinch movie. I feel like they didn't take absolutely any approach to go a different direction with this. Let's continue the fucking review before I fucking throw my hat and get mad. So they go back to their family home, they decorate for Christmas, and the creature immediately shows up, locks Cindy out the house while she's taking out the trash, and kills her father. Now, one of the biggest complaints I have about this movie is not connecting scenes together with logic. She is literally locked out of the house, but as soon as the dad dies, she's immediately just spawned into the house. She's not seen opening the door, breaking down the door, breaking in the window. She is just there. Now, if you're gonna play out these quick action, these horror sequences, you have to incorporate this because I was left like just what the fuck? And this is like 15 minutes into the movie. So she ends up at the hospital. We're introduced to the mayor, Mayor Margie. We're introduced to the sheriff. We are introduced to the detective, Detective Burke. And every time Detective Burke sees Cindy, he's like just fucking speechless. You talk about being a fucking simp in this movie, boy, up your fucking game. If you're gonna go after this girl, riz her up, you know? You ain't gotta be like this sexy kind of thing in this right here. Just be a fucking man, man. Like, hey girl, you're fucking beautiful. I like you. I know you're having a hard time, but if you need anything, I'm here. You know, there are ways to get there. And you're just over here like fucking dumbfounded, like you never had a fucking girlfriend before. But whatever. There's also this subplot that is revealed. I'm gonna rush through this movie because honestly, this movie has no business being a full-length feature. Like, it really does not. There's not enough material that plays out in this 93 minutes of the movie that I feel like credits that whole 93 minutes of the movie. This should have been a short film. This feels like a short film stretched and stretched and stretched out until you cannot stretch it any fucking more. There's this subplot that is revealed that the mayor and the sheriff have set up this website basically feeding the mean one in hopes of keeping the town safe. Now, I respect the attempt, I respect you going there, but the way this plays out in the film, it just does not logically make sense. Okay, you have Mount Crumpet here, you have the town below it, and evidently anything outside of that town radius is state jurisdiction, and they play it off like, hey, we can't do nothing about it, but get real, guys. I mean, come on. As all of this is unfolding and they're going through people's wallets and pictures of the last known pictures of the hikers, there is clearly some bad, horrendous fucking Photoshop of the mean one in the background. I almost fucking laughed. I was like, dude, coming from somebody who photoshops every day, yeah, this guy, for YouTube thumbnails and such, and I've also done like commissions for other people. It looked like they used Microsoft fucking Paint to do this. That's how bad it was. Another problem I have with this film is pacing. The town also went full Halloween 6 where Christmas is just banned in the town. If you have any kind of decorations up, it will be a citation. But the sheriff just acts like he don't have any fucking responsibility whatsoever, to the point where it's kind of annoying. We find out he's been feeding the mean one with the mayor. The mayor dies. Sheriff Hooper eventually dies, sacrificing himself for his wrongs. I saw that coming a mile away. My favorite character of this whole film is actually Dr. Zeus, which I feel like is a tribute to Dr. Seuss, but whatever. His wife was killed by the mean one in pure daylight in this parking lot because she was carrying presents and she got fucking split in half like a fucking banana. Yeah, but of course nobody believes Doc either because he's just a town drunk. And I get that this is a Cindy movie of her dealing with trauma, and I totally respect that. But the thing is, the only person I feel like capitalized on their acting abilities is David Howard Thornton, who plays the mean one. And as much as I hate to say it, you have to know that David plays Art in Terrifier. He is Art the Clown, you know, that's what he's best known for. The man is a great actor. I've had the privilege to meet him. I've talked about Terrifier 1 with him. I've talked about Terrifier 2 with him. I've talked to David about this movie before it even came out, but I've just not watched it. And I hate to say it, but not even David could save this movie. The biggest problem I feel like this movie has is, for one, it looks low budget as fuck. But there were certain scenes that looked fucking great. With the mean one, it was out of this world. Let me break down the cons first so I can get all this ranting out of my system. The biggest issue with this film is that the film goes in multiple different directions, but also goes nowhere at the same time. Other than that, the editing itself, looking at this film as a filmmaker myself and as an editor, because I edit literally every day, but even just from the standard viewer's point of view, there were certain scenes that just did not match. The color grading was different, the mooding was different, the lighting was different. Like they filmed this at one time, they went back and filmed this 6 months later, and they could not recreate the scene. I'm not saying that's what happened at all, I'm saying like the editing itself, there's a lot of scenes in here that just do not blend correctly together. The other issue this film has is the film trying to decide whether this is a pure horror movie and we're gonna go scary with this, we're gonna scare people, or we're gonna go horror comedy with this, we're trying to make people laugh. Because David Howard Thornton, as I said previously, carries this movie on his fucking back. There's this diner scene where he goes on this fucking massacre. There's a few kills spread out throughout the film. The ending, David Howard Thornton as the mean one is great. But the problem even with the mean one in this film is that the film cannot decide, hey, this person is scary in this scene, or this person is funny in this scene. Because 90% of the film, within the very maybe 15-20 minutes we get of the main one, you're hiding his face. You did not mix the comedy aspect and the horror aspect very well. You did not find a good balance. Another issue I have with this film is a lot of the acting is so forced to where it's almost cringeworthy. Even Cindy herself I thought did a decent job, but there are certain scenes where she's like, when she wakes up in the hospital, when her and the detective Burt, but she's like, oh my god. And then 5 seconds later, she's like, really? Like, bro, you can't fucking do that. Not all is bad in this movie. The main one, portrayed by David Howard Thornton, he did an amazing job as the Grinch. The mannerisms of this movie parallel to the 2000s How the Grinch Stole Christmas as far as the voiceover goes, the mannerisms of the Grinch. At certain times of the film, they was on point. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Like I said before, this does not need to be a 93-minute movie. There's not enough stuff that happens in here to justify the runtime. So at the very end, one thing I just did not see coming is Cindy and the mean one have a face-off, of course. At this point, the mayor's dead, Doc is injured, the sheriff's dead. So she's going in for the kill, then she has a change of heart because she finally sees the little decoration that she had gave him 20 years ago. And it dawns in her mind that, hey, I forgive you, and now I understand that you're not a monster. It's just people basically made him into a monster because of what he accidentally did to her mother. Which I am also on the fence about, because if this is a horror movie, you have shown him kill multiple people. Cindy's mother, okay, that was an accident. Cindy's father, that was not an accident. Doc's wife, that was not an accident. The fucking diner scene where he killed multiple motherfuckers, that was not an accident. In my opinion, you cannot portray the mean one, the Grinch. I'm finally gonna call him the Grinch, where you show him as this bloodthirsty killing machine and then expect us to have sympathy for the man in the final moments of the film. So she's got the knife, she's going in for the kill. She changes her mind, she's like, I forgive you. She kisses him on the cheek, his heart grows 3 sizes bigger, and it grows so big that it explodes and he dies. So yeah, that might sound like a lot, but honestly, not a whole lot happens in this movie. Again, I didn't have high expectations for this movie to begin with, but I did want to see how David Howard Thornton portrayed the mean one. I have personally went down the rabbit hole of David's work, like the man has played the Joker before, if you guys didn't know that. But coming from somebody who originally had this idea to make this film right before this film was announced, I just feel like, God, you could have did way better. Like, you really could have. You could have tightened this up. You could have made the decision. Is this going to be a horror movie? Will you go full horror? Or are you going to make it a horror comedy? Because I feel like the mix in this did not go well. The only highlights of this is David Howard Thornton. And Crystal Martin, who plays Cindy, does have some well-acted scenes. But even some scenes, it's just like, damn, you know? Like, you're not quite there. And as much as I love Doc's acting, some of his is just like kind of over the top. I'm just like, God damn, dude, what are we doing here? Motherfucker, put me in that role. Now I'll show you how acting is done. I don't give a fuck if it takes 73 takes. I'm gonna get you that perfect take. All right, guys, I am done ranting on this movie. If I had to rate this movie, I'm gonna give it can't be a 5. 5 being your average horror movie. I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 10. A solid 3 out of 10. Nothing more, nothing less. And you know what? I'm kind of curious. Give me 1 second. IMDb gives this a 3.8 out of 10. So yeah, that's close to my ranking as well. And I gotta say, the sheriff looks like fucking Skeet Ulrich, Billy Loomis from Scream, does he not? I had to double take, I was like, dude, you did not do this movie. Let's check Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, on Rotten Tomatoes, it gets a 22% from the tomato meter, which is critics, and it gets a 49% on audience score. Wow. So I am in the minority apparently, because I cannot put it at a 5 out of 10. I cannot do that. But if you did like this movie, I respect it 100%. This is based off of first watch. If I was to watch this movie 9 more times, it could grow on me. Because that's happened in the past. I watched movies I was like, nah dog, this ain't it. But that's gonna wrap this up, guys. Thank you so much for spending some time in your day to kick it with me. I really do appreciate it. I love all you guys. And until next time, adios.